Yes, ma'am. So we can start, ma'am. Our numbers of viewers are increasing already. So give us an overview on the topic, ma'am.
Okay, so this morning we're talking about sexual child abuse, and I just want to start by giving us what's the definition of child abuse. We can use so many technical jargons and all that, but the most important thing is that anything that is done to children that will impair those children's well-being, or that is going to affect these children, especially by people that have power or people that have authority over them. That is what we call an abuse, because we know that children are vulnerable and they are still growing. And so when people, could be parents, could be adults, could be anybody, do anything to children in a way that will impair them, in a way that will affect their well-being, in a way that will affect their welfare, that is what we call abuse. And there are different kind of abuse. So I just want to forgive us that definition first. So anything done to children, any behavior, anything directed towards a child that endangers them, that puts them at risk of harm, or impairs their physical and emotional health and development, that is abuse. And so I hope that is clear for us to understand. Yeah, and there are different kind of abuse. When we talk about abuse, we talk about, it could be physical abuse, which is what most of us are quite familiar with. So we talk about physical abuse where either children are beaten in anger, that you lift mark. We've seen people who use blades or things on children and left mark on their body. I mean, I've seen lots of pictures. I'm sure most of you have seen some of those pictures as well. And you see these children, I mean, you've seen women putting iron and creating marks on the body of children, or they beat children to the extent that all their bodies are full of wounds and all that. Or people use cigarettes to punch on children's faces and burn children. So those are what we call child abuse, and that is physical abuse, and there are lots of them that can happen. Another one is sexual abuse, which some of us are also familiar with. Any child below the age of consent, which varies from one country to another, but any child basically being exploited. And there are different kind of sexual abuse. It may not necessarily be penetrative sex, but any form of exposure, for example, making children to watch pornography, or making them to funding them, or fingering them, all those kind of things, they are abuse of children, and that's sexual abuse. That's another major one. But the one that is most common, that many people don't often see and many people don't often know, is that emotional abuse or neglect. Emotional abuse is when you tell your children dangerous, negative words, when you make them feel like they cannot amount to anything. And you see a lot of parents doing this, and they don't even see it as anything big deal. And yet it's a form of abuse as well. So anything like that are directed towards children is also an abuse. So when you tell children, even though whether they're your own children or whether they are children that for circumstances, for some reasons are staying in your place or under your care, and you direct negative words to them, it's also a form of abuse. Another one is neglect. You see parents not giving their children food. Children coming up with malnutrition, neglected because they're not getting enough food, or all the children's basic well-being, things that children need: food, shelter, clothing, and even love and all that. When you omit to give it to them, that is neglect. And it's also one of the common form of abuse that sometimes people tend to not say. You see children coming to school looking so dirty, they've not had the bath, you see their fingernails dirty, you see them looking unhappy and all that. It's because they've been neglected. Maybe the mother has gone out, partying. Some people leave their children at home, nobody to look after them. We call them latchkey children. Those kind of things are also form of abuse. Another one that is common in our own environment, which many people also don't tend to count, but which is a form of abuse, is child labor. Children should below the age of 15 cannot work. So when you see children and you are some cultures in our nation, especially Nigeria, you employ children that are 5 years old, 6 year old as your house help, as your housemaid. It's child abuse, because those children cannot walk. And even whether it's the parent that gave them to you or whatever reason, when you make children to walk on the streets, children that are 10 years old, 6 years old, well, there's a place for children to help their parent, but there's a place where it's an abuse. So the children don't go to school, they don't do anything, then that's an abuse. So these are all the various forms of child abuse. And we, as asked the pediatricians, we frown and we say no to child abuse. We don't want any child to be abused, and it is our responsibility as pediatricians, and it's our responsibility as parents to make sure that we don't allow children to be abused. And so that's why we're talking about this today.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Doctor. I believe we've all heard what abuse is, and we all understand it now. Doctor, so how do we prevent abuse? How do we prevent abuse? Because
before I go into that, I just want to give some examples of, because sometimes people don't know what it means for a child to be abused. Or what is an abuse as well. So you see, I've mentioned some of this when I was giving some definition, but I also want to go into details or what constitutes abuse, So we talk about the physical abuse, and in this slide that I'm showing, you can see some of the things that will constitute physical abuse of children. So whenever you do things and that leave marks on the body of children, it's an abuse. I know some of you will say, oh, the child is stealing, I want to teach them a lesson. The child is doing this, even though the law of the land in Nigeria, for example, allows you to discipline your children reasonably. Reasonably is the word. You should not discipline them to the extent of leaving marks on the body. And the discipline should be with love. So, but by the time you say you're disciplining a child or you're correcting a child and you're leaving marks on the body of that child, bruises, or you're leaving burns, some people say the child has still, let's put their hands in fire. That's abuse. Or some people will eat children in an extent that children will suffer fractures. In fact, some others always boast of it, that I will beat you to the extent that you will land in the hospital. And they think it's something nice to say, but that is actually abuse. And there are some people that deliberately injure their children. There are some people that really want their children. They don't like even the children they are not even doing it because they are correcting children. They deliberately injure children, and that is also a form of abuse. So this is those are all forms of physical abuse that we've talked about. Then there's also the sexual abuse itself. I don't know whether you can see some of this thing. There's what we call grooming. You see some people, they'll be buying gifts for children, and they're trying to make these children to become friendly.
Yes.
And then they begin to put fears in the hearts of these children, and they begin to make them feel like, if you tell them anything, if you tell your mommy or if you tell your daddy, then you're going to die. They put fears in the hearts of these children and all that. Or some people would touch the children, or some people will expose children to their own nakedness, or they'll force children to watch pornographic movies or things like that. Those are all forms of grooming the children ready. And so we see cases, even these things sometimes are perpetrated by people that know the child. Most cases of abuse, especially child sexual abuse, they are perpetrated by people whom the child knows very well, people who are close to the family. Even sometimes you see fathers abusing their own daughters. You see uncles, some of you that have boys living in your house who are teenagers, and you have young girls. You have to be very careful with them, because some of them, they are the ones that abuses children. So most of the time, sometimes the mothers are aware, and they also, they just want to push the whole thing. So we see a lot of these things going on, and it's not only the girls, even the boys. All your house help, some of the house help, they rape the boys that they are taking care of. And so these are all sorts of abuse going on in form of sexual abuse. And the neglect one is so common, especially in places where there's a high level of poverty. And there's another kind of neglect that I'm beginning to see now, by those of us who are professional mothers. You know, you wake up in the morning. Some mothers don't know their children anymore. They wake up at 3, they are out of the house before the children are awake. By the time they are back, the children are asleep. It's a neglect because there's emotional neglect. Even though you give them all the money, you give them all the toys and everything. So the children are being raised completely by house helps with people who are not even up to your own standard. They're the one raising your children for you. So it's a form of neglect, it's a form of abuse. So we really need to balance these things up. So, and of course, the emotional one where you tell children hurtful words, negative words, which the children tend to absorb. And this one is even so bad. And in every form of all the abuse, in every form of whether physical or sexual neglect, there's always a form of emotional abuse. And unfortunately, it's the one that is so hidden. Nobody says it, but it's something that has a lifelong impact on the children. So these are all the various forms of abuse that we can we tend to say that tends to go on. You know, so I will just go on to how to number one, the first way to prevent abuse is for us to be aware of abuse, to be aware and to know that we as a country, most of the countries, including Nigeria, we've signed what we call the Child Rights Act. Children have rights. Okay. Even though they look so young and so vulnerable, they have rights. And we have people like pediatricians, the police force, and the family courts, and all that helps to maintain that these children's rights are maintained. You know, another form of abuse is there's also some medical abuse. Like there's a case that I will mention where parents will say they would deny their children treatment, they would deny their children immunization. It's actually against the law. The fact that you believe that these children should not have this and all that, you know, the law now is like the children should have rights to life. They shouldn't have rights to life. So if medical treatment or immunization will help that child to keep being alive, you have, as a parent, you have no rights to deny that child of that right. So, and these are some of, it's also a form of abuse as well, when you don't allow children to get access to life-saving treatments and all that. Yeah. So this is basically all form of abuse. And the first thing we need to do is to be aware, because some parents don't even know that when they beat their children so bad, or when the child is kept with you, or if you that you are having a 5-year-old as your house help. Some people don't even know that it's a form of abuse, you know. So when I see people telling me I have a little girl who is helping me to take care of my baby, I just laugh. How can that little girl take care of your own baby? She's a child as well. So it's a form of abuse. So we really need to make sure that we are aware. And this is one of the reasons why we on HCP, we are taking this topic up and creating the awareness so people to know. And so awareness is very important. And for parents also be alert. Even sometimes you may not be the one perpetrating the abuse, but we all hold our children the responsibility to keep them safe. We all need to keep our children safe. And that includes you, the neighbor, includes everyone. And even your own house, you need to be sure that abuse is not going on under your nose and you are not aware. A lot of children are being abused. A lot of children are being raped under their mother's noses in the house. So you need to be alert. You need to be very alert. So if you have little girls and you have a teenage boy as your house help or as your driver, or you need to be alert. Some of you just trust your children to drivers to take them to school and train them. But we've seen cases where children have been kidnapped. We've seen cases where children have been abused by such people that you entrusted your children with. Some of us in many countries of the world, advanced countries, they do what we call check on anybody who work with children. They go through what we call check, whether doctors, teachers, and they check them to make sure that they've not done any form of abuse in the past, or they have tendency to be sexual predators and all that. So they will call, sometimes in the UK they call it DBS check and all that. It's very, very important, but in Nigeria people don't go through those checks. Anybody just come. I want to work. I want to be teaching. I want to be a lesson teacher. Statistics are showing that most girls are abused by the so-called lesson teachers, music teachers. These are people that you leave your children with, and you let them, and you will be there, or you will just be somewhere. And yeah, those are the people that tend to perpetrate these acts. Even in the churches, at times it happens. So we need to be aware of whoever is with our children at every point in time. We need to know them. We need to be sure that there are people who are not sexual predators. We are not people that are going to abuse our children. So we really need to be sure of that. Number one, you need to make sure you yourself, you are not an abuser. Number two, you need to make sure that you know the people that work with your children. Even the schools, they should be checking their staff. There was a case of a school going on that one of these teachers abuse children. We never heard what had come out of that case. In most schools, most of them don't check their staff to know whether they can do that. And we've seen cases where a headmaster was abusing 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, in Lagos. If you just Google it, you will see all these stories. And these are things that should not be happening. And so we need to be aware. And we also need to, when a child comes and tell you something that suggests abuse, please don't shut them up. Because that's what most of us do. We just say, oh, shut up, you are saying nonsense. No, you don't need to have evidence that that child has been abused. The fact that the child has opened up to tell you, you must learn to take it very seriously, because most times children actually don't talk about it. So when the child talks, then you don't shut them up, because they will never talk again. They will just keep it to themselves, because already most of abusers would have threaten them not to talk. So when they talk and you now shut them up, then the children don't talk again. So you need to just be aware, and then you need to report to the right authority. And even in Nigeria now, we're beginning to have some NGOs coming up, working on this area of child abuse, and you can talk to them. You can also report to the police. You can also report to the social welfare, the Ministry of Social Welfare, and all that. Those are the people that are supposed now to take it up. So I was so happy sometimes when I see people reporting maybe a child who is being physically abused. Then somebody will go and tip off the police, and the police will come. There's also in Lagos what they call the Office of the Public Defender. If you can just go anonymously report in those kind of places, and they will take it up to come and investigate and all that. And we've seen some cases like that, and so that is very, very good. We are beginning to have that. So don't think, they will think it's me. No, you don't have to. They don't even have to know you are the one. If you see a child who is being abused, you also need to be part of that child rescue, because the next thing, the child may be dead. If you see it and you don't act on it, the next thing, the child will be dead. And all this abuse includes all those girls that are being trafficked out of the country for in the guise of looking for better, going abroad and all that, and then they end up being abused as well. So, but let's focus on the one down home today. So these are things that it's all our responsibilities as adults to make sure that our children are safe. We have to keep our children safe.
All right, thank you very much, Doctor.
You're welcome.
That was a very elaborate overview. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Dear viewers, please, your question should be on the main video, not the watch party. On the main video, we need to be able to see your questions. Moderators, please help and copy questions from all the watch parties down here so we can attend to them, please. Help us do that. I think I saw one question on the watch party. She was asking when should parents stop dressing up in front of their children? Okay, so I don't even think it's appropriate for parents to dress in front of their children at all. So, but then of course, maybe you have a little baby, and of course you have to dress and all that. Okay, that's fine. But I think by the time the children are about like age of 2 or thereabout, you should stop doing that. And also that's about the age when we expect you to start teaching them what we call
child sexuality education. We need to start early. And when people talk about sexuality education, some parents always get it wrong. They always think when we talk about sexuality education, we're talking about teaching children sex and all that. No, sexuality education is not about sex only. In fact, that's about a minute part of it. The beginning part of it is that we should, okay, I think somebody has posted the question now.
Okay.
Yeah, the most important thing is that we should start telling children about their body. They should know their body, and you should let them know that they have their private parts and they have their public parts, and you should let them know, you should use the correct names for those body, for those private parts of the body. So you tell them about the vulva, the vagina, tell them about the breast, tell them about the penis and all that. Don't use names that are not appropriate. But sometimes those are the ways these people tend to get. So let them be comfortable talking to you about their private part. And you can now tell them that those parts of the body that are covered by their pants and their vest, that is a very easy way. When each time they're putting on their pants and the vest, you can tell them those are the parts of the body that are private parts. And those parts of the body should be always covered. And then nobody should touch them there. And when anybody touch them there, they need to let you know. Okay? So those are the things. Those are simple things you can tell somebody. So I actually use the PANTS acronym. Private parts are private. Then what is the A now? I'm going to forget some of those things. And then you can always say no. N is for no. I remember the A later. N is for no. So you must always tell people nobody is allowed to touch on your private part. And then S is for speak up. Anytime anybody do anything, if they don't keep secrets. You must tell children that they should not keep secrets, or they should always tell you any secrets that upsets them, because sometimes that's what they are busy ways to say, this is our secret, and yet the child knows that this secret is upsetting them. So you must always tell children that they should tell you whatever secret is upsetting them, so then you must tell them that their body belongs to them. Their body it belongs to them, so nobody is allowed to touch their body. So we have all these things on our page, on our website. So if you go to we have a video on how to tell children about preventing child abuse. We have the PANTS acronym. We have all those things as well. So those are the things that we should be start teaching our children early. The focus of the sexuality education in the focus of the sexuality education in the beginning is about preventing child abuse. It has the focus. That has the focus at that point in time. It's not about whether the child should get pregnant or not and all that. No, that's not the focus. The focus at that point is we don't want the child to get yes. Okay. So I'll remember the PANTS now. So P for stand for privates are private. Always tell children that the part of the body that is covered by their pants and the vest are private parts, and those parts are private, which means that nobody is allowed to be seeing that part, nobody is allowed to be touching that part. And you also, as parents, you also need to make sure you also are not doing the same thing. Then A stands for always remember your body belongs to you. Always remember your body belongs to you. And N is for no. No means no. You should always tell them no means no. So anybody wants to touch their body, you tell them no, and no means no. And then T stands for talk about the secrets. Any secret that upsets the children, they should talk about it. Don't be afraid. And then S means speak up. Somebody can help you. So those are the acronym for PANTS, and those are the things children should know. From 2 years old, you should teach them PANTS. And as they're putting on their pants every morning, let them run through P, A, N, C, S. Let them talk about it. Privates are privates. Always remember your body belongs to you. No means no. So when somebody wants to touch their private parts, teach your children to say no. Anybody wants to touch them where their vest and their pants is covering, they should say no. And then no means no. And then you should always tell them, don't tell children to keep secrets. Tell them to always tell you. Anybody asks them to keep a secret, they must tell your parents. Tell them that those secrets are things that they must be shared by parents. Parents must know every secret. So no uncle or auntie should tell them we will keep something a secret, because those are the ways abusers tend to get children. They say this will remain our own secrets. But tell children, okay, there's nothing wrong with having secrets, but you must always tell your parents all the secrets. It's very, very important. So that way the child would have told the parents, oh, auntie said we should do this, and this is our secret, and then you must always tell your children to speak up. They can speak to their teachers, they can speak to anybody about whatever is upsetting them. So it's very, very important that we teach our children some of these simple acronyms. So back to the question, please don't, I think we should stop dressing in front of children by the time they're about 2.
Okay. Yeah. All right, ma'am. Another question is here from Aisha Aruno. How will I know my child has been sexually abused?
Well, that question is difficult to answer for you as a parent. Number one, you can't know yourself. And even for all those of us who are professionals, it's not all the time that we're sure. Remember what I talked about, child abuse is not just only when the child has had any form of penetration or anything. The fact the child has been exposed to and the fact that the child has been exposed to maybe movies that are inappropriate and all those, and this also boils down to some of us that watch some of these home videos at home, that some of these home videos these days are becoming more of pornography. You see them showing the scenes, so that's why they have all those rating, the rating 18, 14, G, PG and all that. When they say PG, it means you need to watch those movies with your children, because there are some scenes that you may need to explain to them. So G is something anybody can watch, children can watch it. So, but please, so things, they would say some are 13, means that only children who are 13 and above can watch them. Some are 18, only children who are only adults should watch them. So those ratings are very important for you as parents. So please make sure your children are not exposed to some of those things, because that's where some of them begin to see some of those things and they begin to practice them as well. No, so how do you know where a child has been sexually abused? There are some giveaway signs. For example, if a child begins to act sexualized, you see children, for some children, they would, because they don't know, the children don't know there's anything, that thing is wrong. So you see the children acting it out. So you can see a child just going to kiss an adult, or always want to cling to a male, or always depicting sexual behavior, then you mean that child may have been abused. Or sometimes children have recurrent infections, vaginitis. So that's why I always tell parents, anytime they ask me a question about the child who is always having vaginal discharge, especially when it is recurrent, we must always rule out sexual abuse. Sometimes the children also can disclose it as well. They will just tell you, uncle, this isn't touched me here, or he did this person. Don't say, oh, he's talking nonsense. Better take it very seriously. So those are some of but those are like giveaway signs. But the way to confirm it is that the doctors that are trained in examining children, they can examine their private part, and that's the only way they can confirm. Sometimes even when they examine the private part, we're not still sure. Sometimes it is when the child has a sexually transmitted infections that we will now know, because there's no way a child will get sexually transmitted infection if the child has not been abused, or if a child gets pregnant. So sometimes that's the only way we will know. So that is why sometimes for us as professionals, we always take disclosure by a child seriously. In other words, if a child tells us, we take it seriously. We don't just assume because we can't see any signs. If the child has disclosed an abuse, you must believe them, and you must take it seriously, because that may be the only evidence that you have. So back to Aisha, if you don't see any of the signs I've mentioned and you're worried, please take the child to see a pediatrician, a doctor who can help you examine the child and tell you what is likely. Maybe who can confirm for you. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, doctor. Oladokun Anuluako is asking, what are the cause prevent? Please, we are treating child abuse today. Any question outside child abuse, please post on the group call. Please keep note. All questions outside child abuse shouldn't be copied down here. Let them post on the group wall. Moderators and professionals are there. Solange Jungosta, your question should go on the group wall, not this ATP live, please. Not this ATP live, please. Yes. Are there other questions?
I don't have any other questions.
Why are people not asking questions today?
Yeah, because I guess most people don't have questions about child abuse, generally speaking, because it's not something, but it's just the fact that we need to be aware. and we need to change our ways. If you are an abuser, please repent. If you are not an abuser, if you know a child who is being abused, please speak up.
Speak up.
Because it's amazing sometimes when children eventually when the kids eventually come up to the open, it's amazing how many people have seen that child, how many people have had the suspicion, but nobody ever speak up. And at the end of the day, that's why the child end up becoming. There's a case in US recently that I read in the papers. This child eventually died. This child was neglected. This child was being chained to the bathtub, and because parents have been separated, the mother is not even aware, but the father has remarried, and this child was not being given food. By the time they took the child to the hospital, the child was severely malnourished. The child shows signs of neglect. The child shows signs of being chained down and all that. And the child died. So eventually, of course, the two parents have been arrested and facing the wrath of the law. But bottom line is the fact that many people would have seen their child and they ignored, and they didn't act on that our attitude of what's my business. When it comes to children, it is all our business. Yes, it is your business. It is my business. It is everybody's business, because you may be the only lifeline for that child. And if you fail that child, you're not going to forgive yourself. So please don't. There's nothing wrong with saying, "Oh, I don't know. Let me not go and say what I don't know." No, just talk. Ask the professional. You don't need to ask. You don't need to investigate. You don't need to do anything. You don't even need to talk to the parents. Just go and tell the authorities, and then they will act on it. And I'm also making a passionate plea for those of you who have children as your house help. Please, it's abuse. Can you please return those children? I know some of you will say, yes, so I am going to train the child in school. Then you will put the children in another school. Your own children will be going to find school. And then the time your own children are studying, that child will be running up and down, running errands for your own children. That is not right. That's if you know you can. You remember the case of this girl that died in Benue? You remember that girl? What's her name now? Then everybody now started talking after the child has died. The child that was being abused and all that. The case was so much in the news that time. So everybody was talking after the child has died, but many people saw that child when she was going through all that. And so please, you really need to be alert. And when we see children who you suspect abuse, please report. Let's not wait until the children are dead and everybody is now we now want to trend on the topic. Please, I don't buy into that. I think we should act when we have
the chance.
Yeah,
let's do it in time. Okay, Aisha is asking again, how can I convince a parent to take the child for checkup? Because she keeps telling me her private is paining her.
If a child complains her private is paining her, I guess that's somebody you have to tell the parent. I mean, you should tell them. There's nothing other way you can convince them than to tell them. And it is their responsibility now to take the children to the hospital and all that. Your own part is to tell them. There's nothing you can do. And if you think they are not doing the right thing, or you suspect anything is going on, please report to the local authorities, report to the social welfare service, tell somebody else who have the opportunity or the way to. But it's better to tell the parent first. But if you are thinking there's something else going on, then you should do it in a nice way. Let's just go to the hospital, let's just go and check this thing, that kind of a thing, government hospital preferably, and let them check the child for you. So you need to do that. It may not necessarily be the child has been abused, of course. It may be the child has other things, vaginitis, which could be from infection from the pants and all that. So those are the kind of things that we can deal with.
Lola Falabi is asking, what age should dads stop beating their children, their daughters?
Okay, I know this was a trending news the time in Nigeria. It's not about daddy birthing their children that is the issue. It's just that we all need to be allowed. So women also abuse children. We also
Yes.
know that. So it is not men that abuse. Women also abuse as well. So and it's not every man that's a monster. I know that, of course, when we talk about sexual abuse, men are like maybe 90% of them are men, but that doesn't mean that all men are monsters. So we have very good dads. So we have some single fathers, of course, who don't even have their wife with them. Maybe the mother is late or something and they've not remarried. Are you going to say that they should not help their daughters to have their baths and all that? So the issue is just to make sure that the child is not being abused. So for me, as long as the girl, like children, I think children from the age of 7, they should start being able to
Paid by themselves.
have their own bath by themselves. But below that age, the father can assist, and it is not the father birthing the child that should cause the child to be abused. Really, no. Most people that get aroused by children or that, they are the what we call pedophiles. It is only pedophiles that will see a 5 or 7-year-old and then will feel like abusing that. Most of them have it's a mental health problem. Really, they need to get themselves checked out. So it is not a issue per se with the father birthing the children. So so we can't we can't give a law and say if you are so age, don't do that.
Don't
Yeah.
take your child.
If you sure this man is like that, then you as a mother take up responsibility. Most mothers, you know your husband. If you know your husband is the kind that can do that, then take responsibility. But if you know your husband is not that kind of side, then you really don't need to worry about this. Yeah.
All right, thank you, doctor. Next question is from Esosa Mary. At what age should we start educating our kids about sex?
So I've answered that question early. I read from 18 months, sexuality education, not sex education, sexuality education, because sexuality education is not just about sex education. Sexuality education is about the totality of their being. And so starting from 18 months, you start telling them about their body parts. You start telling them about letting them just know their body part. That's all you do. By the time they're about 2, 3 years old, you begin to tell them about understanding their private parts separate from the rest of their body parts. What is a good touch? What is a bad touch? Those kind of things. There are a lot of resources online on how you can go about it. So you start teaching them that. But by the time they are a little bit older, then you start teaching them about hygiene and all that. Then when they are about puberty, you start teaching them about menstruation, about all those things. Then you start thinking about things like sexually transmitted infection, about that's when you can start talking about sex, because sometimes children will ask you how our babies formed and things like that. You start getting into more details. So you start telling them right from time about 18 months, but you are building up on that information. So by the time they're teenagers, they should know everything and they should know how to protect themselves and things like that. And I think them to understand the importance of keeping themselves sexually, and the responsibility that comes with early sexual debut, for example, sexual transmitted infections, unwanted pregnancies, and all that. Of course, you don't want them. You want them to focus their energy on their school, on their academics, and all that, and letting them know that the sex is good. There's nothing wrong with sex. Don't make it sound like sex is a bad thing, but that there's a time for everything. So when they are ready to take responsibility for having babies, and they have gotten a committed person, relationship, someone that they love, that they really want to share the rest of their life with, then that's the time to have the sexual relationship. So you just need children to understand this and don't hide things from them, because they are going to hear it from their
Friends.
their peers at school, and they are going to give them the wrong information. So it's better they hear the right information from you, who is parent who really loves them as well. So I hope that's answer your question.
All right, thank you, doctor. Our next question is from Gift Okpara. Please, how can one handle a 7-year-old girl that likes hugging everyone, including males, in the compound, school, church, etc.?
No, that is actually inappropriate. It's actually inappropriate for for any child at all. Not even 7-year-old. It's actually inappropriate for any child at all to be hugging everyone. So you need to these are things you need to teach children. Number one, she shouldn't even be hugging strangers. So how come I find it very ridiculous that the child wants to hug everyone? No, they should let her know there are people to hug. We reserve hugs and all those kind of affection from close family members, parents and family members, grannies and all that. So you shouldn't allow your 7-year-old to be number one to hug everyone. That is even inappropriate to start with. So if the child is doing that all the time, then you also need to make sure the child doesn't have another developmental difficulties going on, because I know some children who can do that. That is actually overboard. So children should have some boundaries, which is one of the responsibilities of parents, is to create boundaries for the children. We must create boundaries for our children. So boundaries means you don't your the hugs for children should be reserved only for close family members. And some parents you create that difficulties for your children. I see parents kissing their children on the lips to lip. It is actually wrong, because it is not something to be done. You can peck children on the side of the mouth, but kissing them on the lips and all that is not really appropriate. And this sometimes even from mothers to the boys, and it's not really appropriate. So you need to let them know, and these are some of the things. So you get your 7-year-old and tell them, let's hug family members. There are things you do with people that are close to you, like family members, and there are things you do with people that are not. So for people that are not so close as family members, you can just greet them. There are ways to greet people respectfully without necessarily hugging them.
Yes.
And so, because I don't understand why a 7-year-old wants to hug all the males using in the compound, school, church, all the males. I find that very, because the 7-year-old is already becoming aware of their own body. So you need to call the 7-year-old and let the 7-year-old know that, look, you shouldn't. Let's reserve this hug for only daddy, mommy, especially family members, really, and all that. So that kind of a child is a high risk for those who are predators. And you know what? There are predators everywhere. There are predators everywhere. Most of those males in those compounds in the church and all that, some of them are sexual predators. So you don't want your child. So that child already is one of those ones that can easily be targeted for such the evil behavior. So you don't want that child to do. And please always make sure your children are in your custody. And while I'm at this, let me quickly chip in. I read on the WhatsApp or somewhere of a child, somebody who went to church, and somebody said, okay, quickly bring the child, help me to go and give my offering and come back. And before she came back, the child has gone. Please, I just found something so ridiculous that we do. There's on no occasion should you leave a child with a stranger. It doesn't matter who the person is, whether it's in a church or it's anywhere. You never leave your children with strangers. And please, our churches, can we make sure that we register children? And when children are handed over to us at church, we take them, we register them, and we don't release them to anybody except their parents. And the children should never leave our. Sometimes we are so very careless, we're so very carefree with the children. We think everybody is nice, and that is why they are taking advantage of us, those of us in the church. You think everybody who comes to church has come to worship God. Some people have come to kidnap children. Some people have come to steal children. So please, churches that don't do that, please start doing it. If you are having 10 children given to you for children's church, make sure you know who delivered the children, and make sure you hand over the children back to the parents. And parents, stop giving your children to other children to take care of you while you are busy going up and down. And no, take care of your children, and don't give your children to strangers to hold for you. Why can't the strangers go and give their own offering? Not everybody who is in church is a good person. That's another trick that people are using these days to kidnap children. So please, we really need to make sure that we pay attention to some of these things. Thank you.
All right, thank you, doctor. Thank you for that extra bit. Omotoke Miriam is asking, what are the hints to notice in an abused child?
Okay, we've mentioned some of them before. Yes. So physical abuse, we talk about sexual abuse, and we talk about emotional abuse, neglect, and all that. So physical abuse, when you see unexplained injuries, unexplained marks on a child, or a child who is always in and out of accident and emergency, or a child who is unhappy, a child who is not smiling, or for children who have been neglected, you see them when they go to school, you see them stealing food. When children steal things like that, sometimes it's not because they are just stealing. Some of them have been neglected, so that means they're not eating. You see them stealing food, or doing all those kind of things. That's a sign of neglect. You see children thinking, saying negative things about themselves, that, oh, I can't amount to this, I can't amount. These are children that have been emotionally abused. Or you see a child who is acting sexualized. You see them, talking sexual language, or you see them acting in a funny way, or you see them touching their private parts, or you see them walking in an abnormal way, or you see them being excessively close to the male gender, like if it's a girl or the other way around. Those are telltale signs of abuse. And when you say that, you should be alert. You do something about it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, doctor. Sorry, please, if you're just joining, I'll recommend you just wait and let's, because some of these questions we already addressed them earlier. EJ Sampson is asking, what best way can we give a 2-year-old child education?
Okay, I think I've answered that question like 3 times now. So what I'll do is that for those of you who are just joining, like Tomi said, you should just join on. You should watch the video again at the end of it, so that you answer. And again, if you go to our page, this page where you are watching this video now, or even our group, just search for. We have a very short video on how to go about sexuality education. We have like and if you go in our file section, we have files, like a little booklet that talks about details of what you teach a 2-year-old, what you teach a 3-year-old, and things like that. So we have everything there, and you can read it and you can use it. So those are things that will help you, yeah.
Okay, Aisha is saying, I just learned not to kiss my baby on the lips. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Apart from that, you also give him there's some infection that are transmitted through kisses and all that as well. So that's a good one to learn.
Adedolapo, okay. Adedolapo says, when you have a clear case of child abuse which may lead to death, but you keep getting warning from people around not to do anything because it's a case of witches and wizards, what can one do?
No, you can't just assume. You can do a lot. You can't just assume it's witches and wizards. Have you people seen all those children that were neglected in Akwa Ibom? That were standing as witches and wizards. Have you seen what that lady? I've forgotten the name of their foundation now. They took those children and they rehabilitated them. If you see those children, even those people that were calling them witches and wizards, I'm sure they will be shocked. I mean, for crying out loud, how can you be labeling small children witches and wizards? So please, if you see those cases, please go and report to the authorities. Go and report to the social services. If you let us know which parts of the country you are, we can, for example, if you are from that part of the country where they always do that particular foundation is very good. They help those children, they rehabilitate. I saw one of those children's picture. I couldn't believe it. The child is so happy, so transfer. All children need love. Children need food. Children need work. They will try. All these ones we are not taking care of our children. They will blame all our own economic frustration. We'll start blaming it on the children. If you bring up your children in a good place, they've done studies that if you take a set of twins that are very, very good, and they have the same gene, maybe it's what we call monozygotic twin, and you can raise one in one part of the states, I won't mention names now, and you raise one in another part of the states that is very posh, very very good area, good road, good education, good everything, good food and all that, and you go and raise the child in another, maybe a slum and all that, we found out that the children turn out differently. Of course, the children who go to the urban area where they turn out better, whereas children who are raised up in slum, they turn out to be area boys, and whereas the other ones will turn out to be professionals. So it's the environment also has a role to play. These are 2 children with the same genetic makeup, so they have almost the same genes. So it is not about genes. So environment also matters. So most of those children that are being branded as witches and wizards is because the parents have economic frustration because of where we are, and they want to blame somebody, and they want to blame little children that cannot suffer. Those children have been rescued now. If you look at them, I'm doing well, thriving well. So please, Adedola Boyede, it's your responsibility to go and report to the social welfare service. There's a Ministry of Youth and Social Welfare, or Women, Youth and Ministry. They call them different names, but they are all in all the states, and that is their job. So you can go there as an anonymous person. In Lagos, I know we have the Office of the Public Defender. You can go and report there. You don't even need to tell them who you are. You don't even need to just go and give the name and the address and say, this is what I observed. They will go and do the research and they will rescue that child if needs be. So just do your own part. You don't even need to tell anybody. And you can do it anonymously. You know, so
you've heard from the doctor. Please, please don't keep this to yourself.
You may be the lifesaver for that child.
Don't keep this to yourself. Please report to the authorities. And for others that are also listening, please, if you have any case of child abuse in your vicinity, please don't keep it to yourself. Be that voice that helps that child. Report to the authority anonymously, anyhow you want to do it. Make that call, make that report, please. Blessing Egbo is asking, what do you think should be the first step in helping an abused child?
So it depends on what kind of abuse it is. So for example, the first thing is to make sure the child is safe from the abuser. And most mistake that most people make is to go and confront the abuser. You are only going to make the child's life worse, because the abuser can remove the child from that environment. They can go to another place, or they can change their tactics, or they can actually create a barrier that you won't be able to even see the child anymore. So the first thing is not to is to make sure that this child is safe. And in some countries, they have very clear call, what we call safeguarding procedures, what you should do, and everybody has to do that safeguarding. Anybody who sees children, it doesn't matter who you are, even if you are the cleaner in a place and you see the children come to use that service, you must do the safeguarding course. But in Nigeria, we don't have that for now. But what you can do is to report it. Report an abuse. Once you see, report it. We have lots of agencies that do, all sorts of NGOs that do some support. So you just Google it and report it. You report to the Nigerian police as well. They have a section for that as well. So report it to the Social Welfare Ministry. They also can do that. So just get it sorted. Just make sure you don't do nothing. If it's something that you can do something about, of course, you can intervene. But the first thing is to make sure that whoever can help that child is informed. And if you are not in that position, then get the authorities involved to do it. We've already made mention of the names. Maybe what I'll do is at the end of the session, I can put it up on our group on different names and address phone numbers of all those agencies that that can help. If you have a child with sexual abuse, we can put that up, and maybe hopefully that will help us.
All right, thank you, Doctor. Okay, I think our last question for today. Nusrat Foluka is asking, how can I get your book, the one for 2 to 3 years? Oh, I think she's talking about the file.
Yeah, it's not my book, but we have it. It's a booklet anyway, but it's available on our file section. If you go to our group, Ask the Pediatricians group on Facebook. If you go to Facebook and you go to Ask the Pediatricians, once you line into our group, go to the file section, or just search using child abuse or something. It will bring out the files, then you can download it. You can even just you can also just go on Google and you will see it as well. There are lots of resources, there are lots of materials that can help you on how to prevent child abuse and how to do sexuality education. There are some by the what they call it, Focus on the Family, very lovely one. So there are lots of resources online there, and there's some by the UK and NSPCC and all that. Just Google how to talk to children about sexuality education, how to prevent child abuse. You will see a lot of free resources that will teach you how to go about it.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. Titilope Adebusola is asking, if a child has repeatedly experienced abuse and is afraid to talk because she once told her mom and her mom didn't believe her, how do you make the child talk?
I don't understand who is asking this question. So is this the mom now, or is it a next person? In other words, it's difficult for me to say, because if a child has talked and mom doesn't believe, so is it that the child talked to you as a separate person, or what? Anyway, the important thing is not to make the child talk. The important thing is to get the child safe. You understand? So if it is the mom, because I'm not so sure who I'm talking to now, in what capacity you are asking the question, whether you are the mom or you are a friend of the mom or something like that. if the child has make a disclosure before, so if it's a mom, please believe the child and investigate. And I think mothers, I really need to beg all of you, because you are the ones that tend to do this.
Oh, okay. Actually, she's the child. When she was once a child, that's what happened to her. So she just wants to learn about it now.
Oh, okay. So, okay, for children, we also have a lifeline for children to call. Thank God these days we have phones everywhere. And what we normally tell children is that talk to a trusted adult. So if your mom doesn't believe you, talk to your teacher, talk to your pastor, talk to somebody. Just speak up. That is the X. Speak up. Somebody is going to believe you. You may think that your mom doesn't believe you. Does not mean there are. Oh my goodness, so sorry about that, Princess Titilayo. Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. But what I'm saying is that your mom may not have believed you, but next time speak to any other person else. Speak to a teacher, speak to a doctor, speak to your church members. Speak to somebody. Just speak to anybody. Somebody is going to believe you. I know the mothers are very guilty, and you're all sitting on this table this morning. If you are one of those mothers, please, you can see what somebody is sharing our own personal life story now. So our mom didn't believe her, and obviously, thank God, I think you've overcome that. I hope. So sorry. But what I'm trying to say is that anytime a child make a disclosure, please take it serious.
Don't shut down the child.
Don't shut them down, because they may never do it again. They may never talk to you again. And don't promise them you're not going to tell anybody. That's another thing. Because because most time when children want to tell you, they want to tell you in confidence. So sometimes children will make you promise that if I tell you, you won't tell anybody else. Never ever promise a child that you're not going to tell anybody else. Just tell the child, thank you for telling me this, but I cannot promise you that I'm not going to tell anybody else. But I'm only going to tell only those who are going to help you. You know, those who are going to support. I won't tell anybody who don't need to know, but I may need to tell maybe people that need to know, so that we can get to help. Most children will be happy. They are often okay with that, but don't promise, because children once you promise a child something and you fail to keep your promise, then they're not going to trust.
That's another thing.
That's another thing. They lose their trust in you. So please talk to somebody else. And in most part of the world, there are lifelines for children to call. You can even call the police lifeline, the 911 that people call. In Nigeria, I think is it 767 or
that's Lagos 767.
Yes, you can call any of those lines. And there's some foundations too now. They have that lifeline for abuse. There's a Mirabel Center in Lawsuits. They have those lifeline. Those are places you can call. You can call. You can even just stop a policeman and tell him. You can just talk to somebody else who will now. And I hope if they talk to you as an adult, you will take it up and you won't shut them down. You if you don't even know what to do, at least report it to the right authorities who will be able to, help the child. So I hope that helps.
All right. Thank you.
Mothers, please don't stop disbelieving. Don't disbelieve your children when they've talked with something. Please take it up. Act on it. Don't protect your husband as against your children. We do that a lot. Especially those of you from my Yoruba tribe. We do that a lot. We need let's bury it in the family. That kind of thing. It's wrong. It's wrong. We are perpetrating abuse. Perpetrators also are guilty.
Yes.
If the court finds you that and you cover the abuse, you are also guilty. You are as guilty as the person
that committed the crime.
I mean, you're not the perpetrator, but you are the one that is also protecting.
Yeah, an accomplice.
Yeah, accomplice. Thank you. You are also guilty as well. So this morning, as an advocate for children, that I am a pediatrician, and we are children advocates, because sometimes our children can't talk, and we are their voices. And this morning, I'm begging you. We want our children to be safe. We want them to live in a safe world. We want them to be safe. We want them to be happy. And we're trusting you as our adults, daddies, mommies, uncles, aunties, to keep our children safe. Please don't do anything that will impair our children. Again, the message this month, today is not a day for long talk. Today, the only message I'm saying, please let's stop abuse of our children, whether it's physical abuse, whether it's sexual abuse, whether it's emotional abuse, whether it's neglect, whether it's child labor, whether it's child sexual exploitation. Please stop abuse of children. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you so much for that session. I know we didn't have many questions today, but I believe that because we had quite a number of viewers, I believe you guys have learned one or two things. And of course, whatever knowledge you get from here, please share with family and friends. That's the way we keep on passing this knowledge, and we keep we share this knowledge with everybody connected to us, and we have a saner society. So please, 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 let's make this let's push this knowledge that we've gained today. Let's push it out. Don't just keep it to yourself. And of course, any sign of abuse that you notice, please speak out and let the authorities be aware. Join us again.